What's up, Thrylos International fans? This is Adi again, and boy, we are here with an extremely late scouting report. I thought the one I was doing for Adam Unas a day or two ago, that now almost nobody is going to see, would be the last one. But here we are. It is September 28th, and I'm doing yet another scouting report, the latest one I think that I have ever done since we started the project of Thrylos International, formerly Gate 7 International. So we're going to talk about the man that is front and center here, Turkish international Yusuf Yazici. So we're going to talk about him and what it means for Olympiacos and what he could produce for Olympiacos in this scouting report. But before we go on and move on with the scouting report, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're tuning in. Every engagement that we get helps us find more red and white fans. The algorithm works that way. So the more you guys engage, the more we grow this community. You can also support us on Patreon to get early access to these scouting reports. You can get extra content, join the WhatsApp group, and get special merch as well. All of these things are helping us just continue to find ways to produce a better show, a better product for you, and just more. We're trying to take this thing to bigger and better heights. And so far, I think we're on the right track because, as you guys might know, we were nominated in the Football Content Awards as one of the finalists for Best International Podcast. So, check out the link in our description. You can vote for us for the Football Content Awards Best International Podcast. It is an honor to be there. We do all of this for the fans to be something that is available and accessible to everyone for Olympiacos, and the world is noticing. The world is noticing Olympiacos and it's noticing Greek football. So help us make that next step and get us on an even bigger stage for Olympiacos and just for our community as well, the red and white community. Our voice deserves to be heard. Our voice deserves to be recognized. Check that link and help us win the best international podcast at the Football Content Awards. Thank you guys for that. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to it. Let's get back to the scouting report for Yusuf Yazici. And guys, if you were following on Patreon, you kind of had the wool pulled over your eyes a little bit, just like me, because as I mentioned before, I did a scouting report on Adam Munas, only for him to leave and go to Saudi Arabia. He went to Al Sadd. So instead of signing him, we're now talking about Yusuf Yazici that we were linked to before this summer. Free agent, was playing for Lille, attacking midfielder. So now we're going to be talking about this guy. And if you were worried about missing out on the Adam Unas scouting report, don't worry. You didn't miss anything. We're going to be looking now at what Yusuf has to offer and why he may or may not be a better fit for us than what Adam Unas was. We'll evaluate on all of that as the scouting report goes on. So the player's profile in a way is reminiscent of Kostas Fortounis. And I say that because I've seen a lot of people calling him the Turkish Kostas Fortounis. And the way he dribbles the ball, if we're describing how he carries the ball and how he the demeanor with which he moves the ball forward, that's not really that far off, to be honest with you guys. He's not incredibly quick. He doesn't have the fanciest footwork, but he does keep the ball really close to him. And when a defender commits, he just kind of pushes the ball the other way, or he pushes the ball around him in ways that Costa did. Like Costa was just silky with the ball at his feet, and so is Yusuf. He can move the ball around defenders, but he's not going to give you step overs or any of that other nonsense. It's just tight control and smart movements with the ball at his feet. Now, like I said, for those of you that were able to listen to the Adam Unas scouting report over the summer, we evaluated players based on their fit for the Mendeleev system. What we're doing here today is also applying context into terms of what we've seen so far this season and what maybe the player can address. So we're going to look at all of this when we're evaluating the player for today. So let's get started. And as we always do, we're going to start off with goal creation. Now, goal creation, for those of you that are tuning into your first scouting report, it's the bottom section of this chart here. This chart is a percentile chart which takes various statistics of the player and ranks him in a percentage scale. So based on how he's doing it, how where he stood up as a percentile compared to other attacking mids and wingers. So when it comes to goal threat, goal scoring, there's a lot of different contexts for goal scoring for Yazici. Aside from taking penalties, of course, he's got a cannon of a left foot. He's not afraid to take shots from distance. And when he does get a ball in and around the penalty area, he's definitely not afraid to shoot. He scored balls off set pieces one time, touch and shoot as well. He's also scored in the run of play when receiving in stride after taking a touch and just blasting it into a corner. He has a number of goals that are off of goalkeeper deflection as well. It's refreshing actually from this player that we see him run at the goalkeeper after his teammates are shooting at it, in order to win a second ball or a deflection if the goalkeeper drops it. He's got a remarkable volume of just overall opportunity, as we can see here with his almost league highest shot volume per 90 compared to other wingers and attacking mids in France. His remarkably high goal volume is also still in underperformance relative to XG. So that tells us that this is sustainable. We should be even seeing more from him. We can expect to see is this was in France. We can expect to see even more maybe in Greece high number goal scoring situations. His efficiency is pretty good as well. He's got a very nice on target percentage, above average goal conversion percentage as well. So when we're looking at the context of what Olympiacos needs and what we've seen, Olympiacos has been horribly inefficient this year. And we have one of the worst on target efficiencies in the Greek Super League as a team. So a player with a nose for goal that can also work well in between the midfield and defensive lines, this represents a great value proposition for us just in this respect. Now, unlike Adam Unas, Yazici's primary goal contribution is not to create opportunities for his teammates, but to score for himself. Adam Unas was the opposite. He created more assists for his teammates and was much less of a shark in front of goal. Nevertheless, Yazici does have an above average volume of assists for his teammates as well, and or we can say shot creating, shot assist actions in that regard. Most of his assists are going to come off of free kicks. He's got a very nice free kick ability, whether it's a free kick that's somewhere in the field or in a corner kick. He'll be an asset for us and something we can add to the number of free kick takers that we already now have on the team. So while he does have an incredible number of open play assists, while he does not have an incredible number of open play assists, I do see a number of balls driven from wide areas or passes back, maybe to the penalty area after he's reaching the end line. On one occasion, I did see like a nice cutting through ball that split the midfield and defensive line to send a striker through, but I'm not really expecting that to be a normal occurrence just because I only saw it one time. So for the most part, his value in this offensive third is going to be in his shooting ability, not so much in what he creates, because really it's just going to be out of set pieces that we see those types of assists. Now, up next, we're going to look at his passing and build up. Now, in build up, Yazici was rarely a central figure. It wasn't very often where I would see him drop deep to distribute and move the ball around. If he did, it was really just to turn. Maybe he gets the ball, turns it, and runs forward himself, or maybe he'll play it to somebody next to him, either a square pass or a back pass again, while he then runs forward to get released in an advanced position. He likes to drift in towards the middle, even if he's playing on the wing. Does that sound familiar? And when Leo was in possession, he did like to operate in these spaces kind of between the midfield and the defensive line. And in these gaps, if he found himself in the gap between the midfield and defensive line, he really was deadly. I mean, he could find himself with great scoring positions. So when it came to build up, he was more often an outlet than an engine of possession. Now, in a team like Olympiacos, we're going to see more touches. We're going to see more time in the final third, more possession. And while I do expect him to see more touches and be a little bit more involved in possession buildup, I really don't expect this general habit of his to change. I don't think he's going to be someone that is going to be getting super involved in our buildup, coming back and becoming a central figure in possession. I don't think that's going to change because I never saw it really happen in the last few seasons of tape I watched. What I always saw was somebody that was an outlet in possession, an asset in the final third, an outlet in possession, but not a central figure when it came to build up. Pass accuracy from Yazici is just above average, as you can see in the chart here. He he doesn't really give the ball away in situations, at least not stupidly, but I did see him try to force things into players with his teammates, at least when they had multiple defenders on them. And he does like to try a little cheeky flick over a defender here and there. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it looks pretty nice. So he works well in these pass and move situations, but his preference is to be released. He likes to be the one that's playing the ball and then running into the space and getting the ball in the space, especially if it's in that central area. So don't really I'm not expecting to see him being the guy that's like, hey, the Horta that's give me the ball, I'm gonna play it to you, make the moves around me. No, and the opposite. This is a guy that wants to be on the ball, be running at defenders, getting behind the midfield line, and working some of his magic here. He's not super fast. He's not the fastest individual, but the movement he has is pretty constant, and he's moving with even if he's drifting central, he's just moving constantly so he can get on the ball in those areas. Now, when we look at defensive traits, I brought this up so many times. We're not exactly looking for a lot of success, especially with these offensive players. What we do care about here is their work rate and their ability on the press, especially when it comes to what we know Jose Luis Mendilibar wants in his players. Now, Yusuf Yazici is not exactly known for his pressing or defensive work rate. On defensive set pieces, he does get his body in front of the ball, so you do like to see that. But in open play, when he's needed to track back, I wasn't really that impressed. If Yazici is going to succeed in Mendilibar's system, he's going to have to come to terms with the fact that he'll need to press. He will need to work well in the press, and he's going to have to do more work in that respect. We're not expecting him, like I said, to win a lot of balls, but we are expecting him to do his part so that we can have a cohesive unit that is pressing the ball. Remember, the press is our number one strategy, offense by defense. If you don't press, you really have minimal value on this team. I am expecting a bit of a transition period with this guy before we really see him excel in the press. So bear this in mind, especially when you start to see him first couple of games. For a player of his size, also when it comes to his aerial prowess, I expect better than what I saw. He's horrible in the air. For a guy that's 6 foot, I really expected somebody just to do a little bit more. Okay, yeah, you have defenders that are taller than that, 6'2", 6'3", but Yazici's not small. I expected much more of an aerial threat, aerial presence from him. So based on what I saw, don't really expect this guy to be a monster on offensive set pieces or even defensive set pieces in the air. I mean, everything he's going to do is really with what's around him in open play in that respect. Moving forward, this is when we do our comparison, and since I heard so many people calling him the Turkish Fortounis, I decided to do the comparison to Fortounis in the radar plot here. And I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer. I say this, I feel like almost every scouting report, but I have to say it over and over again because people will get the wrong idea. These radar plots aren't here to tell us if this player sucks or not. The plot's a way to separate profiles, one profile from another, and discuss when we're discussing replacements, like in this case, Fortunis, whether or not certain profiles are going to provide similar product as to the profile that left. So that's the purpose of these radar plots. The radar plots aren't here to say this guy sucks, we shouldn't sign him. No, the radar plots say, all right, this individual can accomplish these things, while the one that we lost can do these things. It's a value proposition, and we're here to assess the value proposition. Additionally, before some of you freak out at the level of difference here with these two radar plots in particular, we also need to remember that Yusuf Yazici was playing in France. He was playing in a much better league than the Greek league. So I do expect in some of these areas, in terms like the volume, touch volume, that kind of thing, pass volume, I expect an increase in those because Olympiacos will see much more of the ball in the final third than Lille did in France. And that being said, the core attributes of Yazici won't change. I do expect him to get more touches, more things. So we would see if we did this web again during the course of the season, we'll see it a little bit more similar. But that's not going to change, like I said, the core attributes. Yazici will still be a hound in front of Met. As you can see here, when it comes to the goal contributions, it's very similar to Costa. And this is very, very interesting because he was doing this in France, a much more difficult league. So, and I'm expecting Yazici in Greece to see a larger shot volume per 90. Again, given how aggressive he is in shooting and given how much we are on the ball, this is not something I think that should be a surprise. And I expect this to translate to more action and goals against these smaller sides, especially once he's playing more normally. Costas Fortounis had a knack for unlocking these smaller teams because of how he could move the ball and also unlock his teammates. Yazici, I'm not expecting to unlock his teammates in the same regard, but I am expecting him to be a force pounding the ball at the goalkeeper. Now, with game context in mind, a dangerous shooter like this will draw more defenders to him. And if you're drawing more defenders or getting more defenders devoted to covering you, this should open things up for your teammates in the final third. And this was something that happened with Costa as well. With Costas Fortunis against these smaller teams, they would devote more players because they knew what he could do, and that would open up his teammates elsewhere. Costa could also be a central figure in build-up, and I'm not expecting this to be the case for a player like Yazici. Yazici will never assume this role. I never saw him assume this role in his career, at least as far back in the last couple of seasons I was watching tape for. If he does come back to move the ball, it's to help him get into unlocked in an advanced position, not necessarily to stay and help the ball get worked forward. He wants to get into that area just in front of the defensive line, but also behind the midfield. He loves to be there. He loves to receive the ball there in those areas. Costa did not care where he got the ball. He did like to drift in the middle, but he would get the ball and play it. He would make things work from anywhere. If the ball wasn't moving forward, he would take it upon himself to get back, get the ball, and help transition things forward. That is not the type of player I saw with Yusuf Yazici. Yusuf Yazici wants to get the ball in an advanced position and make his magic work in that final third. So in the end, if you're expecting Yazici to be an exact replica of Kostas Fortounis, but of Turkish heritage, of course, you're going to be disappointed. There's nothing here that makes me believe he can do that. He does have a lot of traits that will make him useful for Olympiacos. A player that isn't afraid to take chances on goal, moves constantly around the goal, runs at the goalkeeper for second balls, and gets these deflections. This is something that's sorely missed. He has a great touch. He can dribble the ball very well, especially in the central area. He can just move around defenders. Now, while he doesn't replace all of the traits of Kostas Fortounis, in the end, what he does possess is a great end product that will help us crack these smaller opponents open, even if it's not in as well-rounded of a way as Costas Fortunis. In the end, that's what we need from him. We don't need him to be Costas Fortunis. We cannot replicate what we got from Costas Fortunis. But what we do need him to do is to give us the creative edge that we're missing in order to crack these mid blocks and low blocks of the Greek Super League. Now, we're coming up to my verdict here, the what my opinion is on the player, and I'll say what I said for those of you that were able to listen to the Adamu Nas scouting report. And I'm going to say this again as it applies as well for Yusuf Yazici. This signing For better or worse, it is a panic buy, and it signals that the business done over the summer was incomplete. While I think in the end, Yazici is a better fit for what we want than an injury-prone Adam Munas, I do still have concerns with this signing. Yazici is not afraid to take shots, especially if he's given the space, but he operates best in the middle of the field, in between lines in the midfield and defense. Again, I've repeated this multiple times during the course of the scouting report. This is the same as what Costas Fortounis did. But remember, in this pressing scheme of Mendeleev, he does not use his creative players in the area behind the striker. The person that's playing behind the striker is more so an outlet for the press. This is what Chiquinho has been ever since he's been occupying that more advanced area behind the striker. So Yusuf will be playing primarily on the wing, probably on the right side. And he will end up drifting centrally, just like Costa will. So there's only one question here. Will he press and will he track back like Costas Fortunis did under Mendilibar? I'd imagine that Yusuf Yazici was made very well aware of these asks by Mendilibar before he was brought in and before he agreed to come to Olympiacos. But still, we could see gaps in the flank, especially in the press should Yazici get caught central and we lose possession to an opponent's restart. But we could see a situation here where he's drifting mid and Rodinei is the one that's occupying that far right space, and then we find ourselves exposed on that right side because here we have Yazici going central. Rodinei is the one that's occupying the space, and next thing you know, our mids are being forced to cover that area, and when it comes to a counterattack, we're gonna end up getting knocked open like Swiss cheese, almost like we did previously. So these are some of the concerns I have, in the very least, when it comes to a player like Yazici, especially early on. Now, I don't think, especially in these early days, that Yazici is going to be used as much else beyond a super sub. He'll probably need some time to get match fit, so don't be surprised if he doesn't really make his first full start until near the end of October. Coming in as a free agent, probably on a bargain salary compared to his original asks, I don't see a credible amount of risk at this point. We have the option to add him to the European list in the winter if he does prove useful for us. I mean, he's here for a relatively long haul anyway. I mean, he's here on a 3-year contract. 27 years old, plenty of football still to play, and a sale is on the cards still for him at this age. So let's not forget that. In the end, I give this signing a thumbs up, especially considering the context of what we need on the roster. Sure, I am not happy that we have to make a signing this late into September, but I do believe that given what our issues are, that he is a much better fit for us than a player like Adam Munas. Adam Munas is quicker, had a wider skill set in terms of what he could do dribbling and what he could do in build up. But he didn't offer us as much in the final third as a guy like Yusuf Yazici did. So Yazici is much more that type of player that addresses the need that we have, which is creativity in the final third, not creativity to the final third. So not also let's think about it this way. Unas is injury prone. Every season he's had an injury, except for last season when he played maybe 500 minutes in Ligue 1. So of the two, Yazici is the one that's going to be more available and therefore more likely to have an impact on the roster anyway. So between those two players, Yazici's the better one for us than Adam Unas. So thank you to Qatar, or thank you to the Middle East, whoever picked up Adam Unas for us. We dodged a bullet there. So thank you. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the scouting report for Yusuf Yazici. Yazici's coming at a very critical juncture early on in the season because Olympiacos is had a very disappointing September so far. We haven't won a game. Draw, 2 losses now. Not a good look. We have to win. We have to win this game at the time of recording. This is before the game against Atromitos. We have to get this win against Atromitos. We have to do something against Braga so that we don't fall behind in the league phase of the Europa League. But most importantly, for our 100-year anniversary season, the title is our priority to win this year. It's our 100-year anniversary. So let's hope that Yusuf can offer us a solution against these lower blocks, and that in addition to him finding some form, that the team can get firing on all cylinders soon so that we can get out of this rut that we're in and kind of bring back at least some of what we remembered from last season. The good times, the good vibes from the championship, the Conference League championship. I'm Adi. This is Thrylos International by the fans for the fans. Hopefully, this is the last scouting report I have to do, at least until the winter. But until next time, guys,